elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prison with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
Tune in Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Liberation Nation with Deacon John, where America comes to hear the truth.
I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, near the news with Jason Brentwood. Because when it's time, Crush, it's time for Jason. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. America here. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs, government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Now you can share the topics that drive the discussions of your favorite talk shows with TalkStream Live's topic-driven talk radio. List and promote real-time talk radio topics, or post the topics that you want to hear. Hot topics are tweeted and retweeted, and include simple click-to-listen audio links. The future of talk radio is topic-driven talk radio. Available now at TalkStreamLive.com.
Revolution Radio.
You don't see it, do you? How close you are to absolute chaos? The sick ones are sitting on their fat asses, eating and drinking themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. You know, the shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride and they can bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out. Get it?
Revolution Radio. Releasing the atmosphere. www.freedomslips.com.
You're caught in a dream. The adventure begins. Put your seat backs and tray tables in the upright positions. We take a trip into very fabric of reality. Phil and Eve have you parked for adventures into reality. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Your data safe. You have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation. Survival from gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns.
You have your documents and your personal information in a safe place, in your hands, where you know where it is. Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it, I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right, we're back, and after dealing with rude people, I don't know that I want to take any more calls, but I might. But as soon as you start getting rude and using this as a way to try to put me or my guests down, you're out of here. I won't deal with that. I don't need to deal with that. I've been doing this radio show for 20 years. Phyllis Shapley's been doing it longer. And to come on and use my show as a reason to attack her, the one person that's doing it, I mean, there are people out there we need to attack. The Dianne Feinsteins, the Charlie Schumers, the people that are the senators and the House people that are trying to shove this down our throats. These are the people we deal with. This is what I do the show for. This is why I try to do this. Now, one of the things that it's going around the internet, so even you idiots are to know about it out there, is the IRS. This is terrorism by government. In any dealings with the Internal Revenue Service, and contrary to American jurisprudence, you are first considered guilty unless you can prove your innocence. The IRS will reject your returns and require you to provide documentary evidence of all your financial transactions. Failure to provide all required documentary evidence for whatever reason will result in fines and penalties and possible jail time. There is little that sends more chills down the spine of American taxpayers than a letter or a call from an IRS functionary. Last week, before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, Treasury Inspector General for the Tax Administration, that's TITGA, J. Russell George, said the IRS could not account for all the costs of an Anaheim IRS training conference attended by 2,400 IRS employees and estimated to have cost the agency $4.1 million. In other words, the agency was in violation of the very rules it used to oppose Americans. The conference is noteworthy because of a controversial video produced for the conference that spoofed Star Trek and cost about $50,000 to make. It was one of the first hints of the excessive IRS abuses to leak. The TITGA report released May 31st claimed the IRS held 225 employee conferences between 2010 and 2012 at a cost of more than $49 million, but the cost could have been a lot more. During congressional testimony, Ferris Fink, Commissioner of the IRS Small Business and Self-Employed Division, and Spock in the video spoof, who approved the expenditures for the Anaheim conference, admitted the conference may have actually cost more than $5 million. And Gregory Klutz, I guess, the Assistant Inspector General for the audit, testified that the Anaheim conference was the only one of the 225 examined. The video dialogue, the lavish unchecked conferences expenditures, the abuse of the conservative groups requesting nonprofit status, and the list of abusive that Michael Menz wrote about last week all point to an agency that is unaccountable and out of control, which is typical of unchecked government bureaucracy. The IRS is nothing more than a blunt instrument used to beat Americans into compliance with a socialist, distributionist, fascist government that passes itself off as a democracy. It gives a face of legitimacy to the government theft of our labor. But the theft is theft, whether the robbery is pulled by a masked bandit or an agent of the state wearing a suit and tie. In fact, the theft by the state is much worse. If you are prepared or armed, you can fend off the masked bandit, or perhaps hope the good agents of the state law enforcement apparatus may one day capture and persecute the bandit and return your stolen goods. But there is no such defense against the state. There is no hope to recover the goods stolen from you by an agency of the government that enforces laws that are so Byzantine that a question to a dozen IRS agents will render a dozen answers, many of them contradictory. There's essentially no appeal for a negative IRS result, as one of the people targeted in the IRS Tea Party scandal learned when his appeal was to be heard by the very agent who had denied his status previously. For 100 years, the lie has promulgated that income taxes fund the government. Americans are taught from an early age to be a good taxpayer and pay their fair share. This lie has gone so far that now the majority of the people buy into the notion that the government gets first dibs on our money and can withhold the amount that is our fair share. Then our benevolent government gives us some back after we file a return, and we happily take our refund. Using words spoke by Beardsley Rumney, chairman of the New York Federal Reserve from 1941 to 1946, we can dispel the widely believed myth that income taxes are needed for government income. Income taxes have nothing to do with providing income to the government. In a famous speech he read before the American Bar Association during the last year of World War II, titled Taxes for Revenue Are Obsolete, Rumney said, "The necessity for a government to tax in order to maintain both its independence and its solvency is true for state and local governments, but it is not true for a national government." The speech was originally printed in American Affairs in January 1946. The editor of American Affairs wrote, Rumney's thesis is that given control of a central banking system, that and two, an incontrovertible currency, a sovereign national government is finally free of money worries and need no longer levy taxes for the purpose of providing itself with revenue. All taxation, therefore, should be recorded from this point of view of social and economic consequences. Who do we have here? We got somebody calling in?
Actually, I think I may have accidentally brought Hijacker in. I don't know if we want to talk to Hijacker.
No, I don't want to talk to him. He's an asshole. I don't want to ever talk to him again. Hang him up right now. Hang up on him right now. I'll never bring him up again, ever. Never allow him on my show, and he can kiss my ass.
Okay, he's gone. I just wasn't sure about the phone number there.
No, he's a jerk, and I'll never bring him back on my show. Never want to talk to him again. I'd talk to Hijacker before I do that. No, I ain't taking him. All right, let's go back where we were here. In a similar vein, by the way, and the IRS is simply a collection agency for the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve their charter is up this year. But because they control the whole Congress, I'm too powerful. Why would I talk with an asshole like, no, I'm not talking to him. So powerful, swelled head. That's it. Let's go back to where we're doing. I won't even look at the chat room anymore. Matter of fact, let me just get rid of that. One of the nice things about the chat room here is I can devoice and I don't have to listen to assholes. So I won't do that. I'll just okay. Thank you very much, Heisenberg. I appreciate that. And by the way, I've got the videos of David Icke and Alex Jones. As a matter of fact, I've even got the video of the BBC that Alex blew up on. Again, Alex is kind of like hijacker. It ain't going. He's just shouting over anybody and trying to do this, and I'll never. I give Alex Jones a good credit for what he is. He's a good showman, and he actually gets out good information. But as Goebbels said, good propaganda is 90% of the truth, and that's what he does. He does, and he talks over people. He talks over his guests. I've had a lot of guests on that said that's exactly what he did to them, and obviously that's what hijacker does. So he'll never be on my show again. Never call in. Won't receive any of his calls, and I'll block him on Skype. So thank you again, Heisenberg. It's now let's go back to the IRS. This scandal right now is going viral. They're talking about it. People are talking about it. People are starting, and this is what I've tried to tell you. I had a guest on that was an IRS agent, and I was polite to him. I'm not cutting him down for formerly being an IRS agent, and he might be able to help you dealing with the IRS. But he asked me to not mention on the air that I don't file, haven't filed for 20 some odd years, and won't file because it's a criminal organization. And I even try to try to inform you. So if you want to, it did sound like a drunk, didn't he? Anyway, let's go back here. So the former, in a similar vein here, former Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis President Darrell Francis had this to say in 1974. Since the direct method of printing money to finance government expenditures is prohibited in the United States, the monetization of government deficits has occurred indirectly. Government debt is ultimately being financed by the creation of new money. Revelations of IRS abuses should be the impetus to dismantle the government shakedown agency to the last jot and tittle. The surveillance state. Again, this is what's happening right now, folks. We've told you about the IRS. Now, the control of the government by the banksters. And this is what they want, folks. One world government of the banksters and by the banksters. Is what we are seeing right now. It was written about, their plan's been going back for 200 years. before 1913. Their first plan for one world government. Their first plan for one world government was the League of Nations. That went down because of Russia and the United States refused to ratify that. So they murdered the Tsar, they set up the Soviet Union, and the whole Bolshevik Revolution was financed by the banksters. And that, of course, gave us the Federal Reserve. When people lose confidence in government, they lose all fear in favor of self-defense. This loss of confidence in government and the elected class is happening now at breakneck speed. Government and Congress are no longer legitimate, and they have been and are passing laws right and left against the American people. Government is composed of parasitical psychopaths who have created the hyper-Orwellian surveillance state that was completely revealed in two reports by the British paper The Guardian last week. It's exactly what I've been warning about for a number of years. I told you that Amdocs and Converse were the people, the Israeli companies that tap my phones. And since the passage of the USA Patriot Act, I've refused to fly since then. I haven't flown. I traveled the length and breadth of this country working with a presidential candidate by the name of Charles Collins, who wanted to expose and eliminate the Federal Reserve. He tried. His mics were turned off by the Israeli-controlled media. Excuse me, let me say that properly. The Jewish-controlled media, all right? Now, The Guardian said that the USA Patriot Act is the most unpatriot act passed since the early days of the Republic, not ever. I've warned you about the growing police state and the rise of benevolent totalitarianism. I've often been greeted with charges of fear-mongering or tinfoil hattery. First from supporters of the George W. Bush regime, and now from supporters of the undocumented usurper who sits in the people's house. And by the way, my guest tomorrow will be Orly Tatus, who has tried to expose Obama for years. She'll be my guest tomorrow. America is on life support unless the Leviathan government is torn down to its constitutional foundation. The country will rip itself apart. It may well be too late to prevent it. The government, through its alphabet soup agency and its surveillance apparatus, are terrorizing the American people. We saw that in Boston. Terrorizing by government cannot survive against a well-armed citizenry. That's why the elected class have pushed so hard to disarm the populace, and why the Department of Homeland Security has been militarizing itself at a breakneck speed. And I tried to warn you about that when I had in my film True Face of FEMA. In my film True Face of FEMA, I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting. First Homeland Security meeting. Colonel John Brinkerhoff was lecturing law enforcement. In case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area, we'll need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized troops to control the American people, because some of them just won't follow orders. You can get that on you can get that film. You can see Brinkerhoff lecturing law. And he's asked, are you talking about National Guard? No, they're too expensive. Besides, they'll be in Iraq or Afghanistan or someplace like that. And he's warning about an earthquake along the New Madrid fault line. He was talking about a disaster. We saw what happened in the disaster in New Orleans, disarming the American people. That's what the trip is. That's what Boston was. Look at Boston. Look at the way that Boston happened. I mean, we got one teenager here now, Phyllis. I believe she was wrong about that. I don't believe either of those guys. They were patsies just like Lee Harvey, just like Timothy McVeigh. And they killed him just the same way they killed that police officer in California. Charged him with a couple of murders and never got a trial, burned him out. This is what's happening with this government here. Now, we've got another whistleblower out there that's warning you about this NSA police state. Now, Edward Snowden, here's another view on this. And I like to look at things in all different ways. I told you about the sheriff, the Constitutional Sheriff's Organization, put on by Richard Mack, Sheriff Richard Mack, who beat the Brady bill, but Lady Horse sent this to me, that Colorado and apparently Texas is next, are being targeted with an attempt to set up a federal authority framework that will enable Secret Service agents, not just those guarding the president, and others of the U.S. Secret Service, including uniformed division officer, physical security technicians and specialists, and other special officers, to arrest and remove an elected sheriff for refusing to enforce the law or anyone breaking the law. The bill being introduced defines law as including any rule, regulation, executive order, court order, or state or statute or unconstitutional provisions. It would establish federal authority police powers in a state, enabling an enforcement arm reporting directly to the president, that's the Secret Service. It would potentially lead to enabling the president executive branch to theoretically override preventive measures that are now being taken by many states throughout the country who are trying to preserve Second Amendment gun rights and who are prohibiting the enforcement of unconstitutional law passed by Congress or pushed by executive order. I could have told you this was coming. This is what they did when we tried to form the militias. Now, Richard Mack has formed the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers Association, and it's already happened. We had Biden's son, Vice President Biden, who just spoke before the Zionist committee here in America. Might as well call it a communist. And there's more than 340 sheriffs now that have joined Richard Mack's thing. And they've all expressed they will not enforce a Washington mandate that clearly violates the Second Amendment. It's already happened to one sheriff who refused to disarm someone on a concealed carry charge in Florida. They moved the sheriff, an elected official, removed from office and replaced by some henchman appointed by the governor. In Colorado, Senate Bill SB 13013 has evidently just passed the Senate and now will be heading on to its potential signing by the government, giving police powers and arrest authority to the executive branch of the federal government within the state. Here in Texas, a similar bill has been introduced in the state legislature. The President and Vice President Biden have been actively pursuing state legislators and pushing for the passage of bills. Obama is scheduled to visit Colorado in just a few days. Colorado is a pawn in the Obama-Biden plan, and then on to the next, at least those that won't fall in line. Quoted from Representative Lori Sain of Colorado, who says she believes the bill is intended to be used as a foundation for later legislation that will surrender still greater control to the federal officials. I've told you about that, folks. I've told you about that time and time again. This is what they do. This is how they do it. And see here. Here in Texas, they tried to demonize me for starting the militias. To hell with the Second Amendment. To hell with everything they've got to say. Alright. Now, Edward Snowden did the world a favor by officially blowing the whistle on what is said to have likely been going on for a while, recording of every phone call, voice message, text message, financial transaction, and any other communication in the nation. And Jim Stone said, even though I said this was probably going on, I was still surprised that this was going on for at least 8 years, 9 to be exact, Jim. Now they got this new data center in Utah, another in Maryland, both of which are many times more powerful than anything they ever had. I'm going to tell you where this is all probably headed. If there's one thing we've learned from this, is that if they can do it, they will do it. So this report is going to show you what the capabilities have got to be right now and what to expect from NASA in the future. Recording of all conversations occurring in cars manufactured after 2004 and sold in the United States via an always-on cell connection that is built right into the engine control computer. Engine control computers are always placed in the passenger compartment where they can hear everything, though in the past they did not have ears. The fact that they do now was mandated by the federal government and became a legally required component of all cars from the year 2005 on. This started in the late 90s with GM's OnStar. You may have seen an OnStar commercial where the OnStar representative was talking to the driver through radio speakers. All new cars have at least one side of this capability, the outgoing microphone installed in them now. Recording of all conversations happening in the vicinity of a computer equipped with Intel Core V Pro or Sandy Bridge processor. Even if it's not online, even while it's turned off, Intel evidently thought it was a good security choice to have full-time cell connectivity built in the heart of every CPU they produce. I bet you didn't know that that new Intel laptop you just bought is always online even when turned off. You don't get to use that connection though, which leaves the question, who does? Your computer just did that. That's what happened to us. My lady has a new computer here, and somehow it got turned on even while it was turned off and ran the battery down. All cell phones have been and will continue to be, this started in 2005, in speech-to-text mode, where the phone listens to nearby conversations, converts them to text, and loads the text into an NSA server during cell phone tower updates, which happens frequently during the day as a part of normal cell operation. In the past, whenever they put full-time monitoring on cell phones, the batteries would die in a couple of hours and the phone would always be hot. People noticed this, so to circumvent that, all cell phones were equipped with speech-to-text software, and though it's not perfect, you still get pretty good intelligence about the user without draining the battery at all. Once again, it is with the new Intel processors and their always-on cell connection, you don't even know the software exists. Recording of all conversations in the vicinity of computers that are turned on and have an internet connection, even if they have no Core V Pro or Sandy Bridge CPU, but that's old news. Video and sound recording of household activities within the view of Samsung Smart TV or any of the new video gaming consoles or any smart meter compliant appliance which can communicate with an electrical smart meter. All electrical smart meters will have Wi-Fi, 3G, and sometimes 4G connectivity for the purpose of receiving daily energy-related instructions, and I believe we warned you about that when Deborah was on my show about the smart meters. Now, possible now, all cell phones which have cameras most likely are right now constantly taking a sequence of photos, uploading them during cell tower updates to hide battery usage, and the cell phone owners never realize this. People need to recognize the importance of what Edward Snowden did. He gave us a fixed point, reference point for what NASA was capable of 2005, and we can calculate what they can do now. Moore's Law and what it means for the NSA. Now, most everybody knows about Moore's Law, which states that computers will double in power once every 18 months as technology advances. Moore was perfectly right, because it's really computers, in reality, computers ended up doubling in power more frequently once every 13 months, but let's just use 18 months as a reference standard anyone could agree on. If in 2005 NSA was able to record and permanently store every phone conversation, then video, chat, internet record for everybody, every text, every email, and store it back then, let's see how many times that capability just went into the NSA data center in Utah. 2013 minus 2005, that's 32 times the processing power available in 2005. If we take 100% and divide it by 32, we can see how strong a percent what they had in 2005 will compare to the new data center. If they are already permanently recording every phone call, financial transaction, video, chat, email, text message, and whatever else with a system they just got a little over 3% as powerful as what they put into Utah, what new capabilities did they just get? Every vacation picture you take with any Wi-Fi equipped camera, digital camera, instantly uploaded to an NSA surveyor for possible storage as possible future evidence. How about every music project you ever worked on with a PC driving? How about your smart microwave via your smart meter sending out all the audio in your house to corroborate what your cell phone is sending out, to corroborate what your smart TV is sending out, to corroborate what your PC sent out, to corroborate what your landline sent out, to corroborate what your game console sent out, and having all of these recordings of what went on in your house being permanently stored on the NSA server just in case the microwave didn't hear it clearly. That is what 32 times the capability of what they had in 2005 mean. And if we learned anything from Edward Snowden, it is if they can do it, they will do it, which is pretty much an affirmation of what we said all along. Stone says, I got called a wacko by a few when I said all phone conversations were being permanently recorded and stored on an NSA server, as well as all text and emails, regardless of who made them, and ended up being right, even if I was behind in saying this by 6 or 7 years. Now that I'm taking that a step further, I would like to ask you, you think I'm wrong this time? The bottom line is that the surveillance state has gotten so powerful that even a creative mind could never dream up what it is really capable of. No doubt I missed. Okay. I will take a couple of phone calls from anyone but Hijacker. And that number is 347-688-2902. Now, one of the things we talk about Edward Snowden, again, 6 of one, half dozen of another. And let's take something to think about. He sounds like a thoughtful, patriotic young man, and we're all should be glad that he blew the whistle on the NSA surveillance program. But the more I learned about him this afternoon, the angrier I became. The NSA trusted its most sensitive documents to this guy, and now, after it has just proven itself so inept at handling its own information, the agency still wants us to believe they can securely hold on to all of your data? Oy vey. According to The Guardian, Snowden is a 29-year-old high school dropout who trained for the Army Special Forces before an injury forced him to leave the military. His IT credentials are apparently limited to a few computer classes he took at a community college in order to get his high school equivalency degree, courses that he did not complete. His first job at NSA was as a security guard. Then, amazingly, he moved up the ranks of the United States national security infrastructure. The CIA gave him a job in IT security. He was given diplomatic cover in Geneva. He was hired by Booz Allen Hamilton, the government contractor, which paid him $200,000 a year to work on the NSA's computer system. Now, let's note what Snowden is not. He isn't a seasoned FBI or CIS investigator. He isn't a State Department analyst. He's not an attorney with a specialty in security, national security, or privacy law. Instead, he's the IT guy, and not a very accomplished, experienced one at that. If Snowden had sent his resume out to any of the tech companies that are providing data for the NSA's PRISM program, I doubt he would have gotten an interview. Yes, he could be a computer savant anyway. Many well-known techies have dropped out of high school. But he was given access way beyond what even a super geek would have gotten. As he tells The Guardian, the NSA let him see everything. He was accorded the NSA top security clearance, which allowed him to see and download the agency's most sensitive documents. But he didn't just know what the NSA surveillance systems, he says, he had the ability to use them. Quote, I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone from you or your accountant to a federal judge or even the president if I had a personal email, he said in a video interview with the paper. But because Snowden is now in Hong Kong, it's unclear what the United States can do to him. But watch for officials to tar Snowden. He'll be called unpatriotic, unprofessional, treasonous, a liar, grandiose, and worse, as in the Bradley Manning case, though the more badly Snowden is depicted, the more rickety the government case for surveillance become. After all, they hired him. They gave him unrestricted access to their system, from court orders to PowerPoint presentations depicting the crown jewels of their surveillance infrastructure. And also note, they made a hideous PowerPoint presentation depicting the crown jewels of their surveillance infrastructure. Who does that? The writer here says, I've been reading a lot of La Carrere lately, and when I saw the PRISM presentation, I remembered how La Carrere's veteran spy George Smiley endeavored to never write down his big secrets. Now our spies aren't just writing things down, they're trying to make their secrets more easily presentable to large audiences. The worst part about the NSA surveillance is not its massive reach, it's that it operates entirely in secret so that we have no way of assessing the sophistication of its operation. All we have is the word of our politicians who tell us that they vetted these systems and that we should blindly trust that the data is being completely safeguarded and aren't vulnerable to abuse. Snowden's link is thus doubly damaging. The scandal isn't that the government is spying on us, it's also giving guys like Snowden keys to the spying program. It suggests that the worst overreach, combination of overreach and amateurish, power leveraged by incompetence, the Keystone cops are listening to us all. Pretty scary, huh? Now, I told you about going back to Colorado, talking about this Senate bill, SB 13, allowing the federal government to take over. This is what happened. This is what happened when they passed the Homeland Security homegrown terrorist bill. This SB 1959, and I told you way back then that they were coming after all of us. They were coming after all of us. And that bill, 1959, is that bill became the fusion centers. This new bill, there's the fusion centers going after the sheriffs, which are the your last stand in law enforcement. What happened in Boston, that wasn't the sheriff in action. That was the Boston police. There is an answer, folks. You know, Ayn Rand, and I've used this on so many times, it's almost old. But it's, Ayn Rand told you that the government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make criminals out of us. This is what all the eavesdropping, all the tapping of our phones, all the smart meters, besides killing us, it is to make criminals out of us. They want to tap your phone so they can find out if you got any drugs, if you're buying drugs that the CIA brought in. That's why I've told you, tear down that wall, replace it with tables, abolish the laws against victimless crimes, stop making honest citizens into criminals. Let them do what you want, whatever you want to do in your own house. I don't care whether you're gay. I don't care if you want to sit there and shoot heroin, go ahead. Just put an alarm or something. Use your smart meter to let us know to come pick up the body. And I prefer doing that than putting them in prison and paying for their upkeep for 10 years. Here, we'll pay for your medical. I used to joke about that. Here, my idea of retirement: shoot a banker. You know, when I turn 69, and let the check into the prisons and stay there till I retire. That's then I get medical treatment, then I get my food. It's not a joke anymore. They are planning to do that. Yeah, I quit doing cocaine when I found out the CIA was making all the money out of it. And the sheriff might not be too reliable in Colorado if Obanga gets his idea across. But it'd be interesting that you can smoke pot in 20 states now if you get permission from the doctor, the medical establishment. They'll let you do it. Why did they do that? Because they weren't making any money off of you. We were growing pot in our backyards up in California, down in Florida. And that's what they do. Well, if you can grow... I asked the doctor himself, I said, Why would I come to you to get a prescription for something I've been smoking for 45 years? Why would I do that? Turns out I couldn't do it because I have been smoking pot for 45 years. I was too healthy to qualify for medical marijuana. Incredible. Incredible. And they're going to make it, they've already tried to make it guilty. You could be guilty if you don't allow the government inspector to come in and check out your tomatoes. They're going to try to do that too. Well, you can't, or, if you got a cow and and your neighbor wants some milk, you could be charged with a crime for that. The Amish were. Up in New York, he was delivering milk to some of the people. And matter of fact, folks, I'm going to be working on my next 2 books for the next few months. Going to be doing that. And the book I started 45 years ago was about the abolishment of all laws against victimless crimes. And more. I may run into a little bit of into a problem with some of the Christians out there. It's because I'm going to be talking about the Bible and the fact that the Jewish God portrayed in the Bible wasn't the good guy. He was an insane megalomaniac, and I don't even know if he was God at all. May have been Satan pretending to be a god. It's possible. Now, I wrote it as science fiction. Whether it's fiction or not, I'll have to let you make that in mind if you want to buy the book. It ain't going to be free. It ain't going to be up there. If you want to carry it, well, you can do that. If you want to read it, you can do that. But first, you're going to have to go to my website, freeamerican.com, make a donation, and get a copy of one of my books. Go to shop.freeamerican, www.shop.freeamerican, and order one of my videos. I've got chemtrails, I've got the true face of FEMA, and it's incredible. I filmed that over 10 years ago, and it's what's happening right now. Right now. What I wrote 45 years ago as science fiction is happening right now. What I wrote 45 years ago about Lucifer actually being the good guy will freak a lot of my devoted Christians following. But if you think about it, Lucifer, the angel of light, had a lot in common with the description you got of Jesus Christ. Maybe they were the same person, and maybe Lucifer got demonized by the followers of an insane God, or an insane devil promoting himself as God. Quite possible. Quite possible. I think outside the box. I write outside the box. Now you can read the first half of 2 of my novels, and matter of fact, One Bloody Alabaster Eye. You can read probably the first few chapters in One Bloody Alabaster Eye on my website right now. It starts out with a future segment that I added about 10 years ago. And that future segment is happening now. In Deadly Flashes of Silver, I wrote about an attack on a nuclear power plant almost 10 years before the attack on the nuclear power plant at Fukushima. And all of that's on my website, freeamerican.com. Let's see what else we got. Okay. Alright, I'll try to go one more chance for a phone call. 347-688-2902. See what else we got here. Got that out of the way. Okay. Alright, let me get here. There's a bill going on in Texas now that hands 23 Texas roads to private foreign toll operators. That's SB 1470. Includes I-35, Highway 183, Loop 290, Loop 1604, and more. That bill will affect the next 3 generations of Texans, and it's sitting on Texas Governor Rick Perry's desk awaiting his signature. That bill would authorize the Texas Department of Transportation or toll entities to enter into a public-private partnership known in Texas as Comprehensive Development Agreements. More than 20 projects including rail and 3 bridges. Grassroots groups across Texas are asking Perry to veto the bill despite his avowed support. Texas Tea Party, Texas Libertarian parties, and dozens more watchdog and liberty groups oppose P3 as sweetheart deals and corporate welfare designed to extract punitively high toll rates from travelers with little choice other than congested free routes. Indeed, conservative columnist Michelle Malkin calls P3's corporate welfare, and Rachel Alexander calls them double taxation and state-controlled monopolies. Okay. Well, here they're going again to try to start World War III. A Russian TV crew came under fire in Syria when a mainly civilian convoy taking the journalists to the Golan Heights was shelled by Syrian rebels. The convoy, shelled on Saturday, was led by a Syrian army military vehicle. We got somebody on calling in here?
No, we're getting something that sounds like from your computer or something. Oh, no, that's the station break coming up quite
all right, well, we're out of time. FreeAmerican.com. Richard, thank you. You did a good job today.
No problem. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
See you tomorrow morning. Yeah, Orly Tatitz tomorrow. Check you then. Bye-bye.